And tonight, Mindy and Ashley from DuraPlaq are here. They brought treats with them. So help yourself to cookies, and there's water back there. Please dig in. And so after their presentation, we'll view member photos. So with that, I'll introduce Mindy and Ashley. They brought lots of examples. And this is Mindy with DuraPlaq.
So I'm Mindy with DuraPlaq. Been with DuraPlaq for a really long time. I think about 15 years or so. We are a Colorado born and raised printing company. Started out in picture framing and kind of have grown to offer a wide variety of different products. That is completely aside from why we are here. We're here to educate you guys and teach you a little bit more about print output and image capturing and some different components as well. So that's our goal. This is Ashley. Anything graphics related, she is absolutely genius when it comes to anything graphics related. So
yeah, I've been with the company almost 13 years now. I handle everything on the print side of things in terms of getting images ready to print. So if you have any questions about how can I get it from my screen onto the paper and how can I have it look how I want, I'm the person to go to.
Absolutely. All right, and if you guys have any questions as we're just kind of talking through stuff, we very much so gladly welcome you to ask a question, raise your hand. We'd love to have, good interaction. It's great to see a lot of faces here that look really familiar, and look forward to just kind of getting to know you guys. If you do have any questions, obviously we are a great resource and we'd love to help out. That's been, how we've built our company. We really value personal relationships. And so by all means, come and ask us anything. So to kind of start, not knowing exactly what you guys know or understand about printing, we brought a couple of different print samples. There's 4 different print methods for the most part. There's chemical printing, which is starting to become a bit more outdated, but that's your traditional film to chemical processing. You get a little bit less repeatable results with that. So it's not something that is used as often, but it is the traditional roots of photography and mediums of how to print. The next version is like a giclée or an inkjet print. That will give you very repeatable results. There's specific white points of paper. Has anyone ever shopped for white paint and understand the different colors of white? That's one of the things that we see often when it comes to print output. Different types of paper will have different white points. So those different white points can kind of affect just ever so slightly how a print will turn out. But if you're looking at, a glossy paper, sometimes it's definitely got a cooler white point tone to it and such. So with paper-based printing, this will pass them around. And we have about 1 million samples for you guys too. So we gladly welcome you to dig through stuff, put your hands on things. So that's how you can get a good feel for things. But giclée printing is just an inkjet based printing. It's very archival. You're going to get repeatable results. That's kind of the first one. With our process, one of the things that you need to do to protect a print is to put some sort of coating over the top of it. So we do UV coatings and we offer a wide variety of different coatings. You'll see there's some samples back there, but you can do glossy finishes, matte finishes, etc. And that can kind of change how a picture looks as well. So that's a different way. The next method that we have is direct printing. So with this, we take a material and we put the ink directly onto it. So we print directly onto, this one's metal. So you can kind of see the brushed metal. You can see how a white point or the base material can change the way that a print looks. This is the same print, but just on different materials. So you can see where there's a variation between how, yes, sorry, all the people online, of how your print can change based on the type of medium that you put it on. So direct printing is that kind of next option. And then dye sublimation is the next one. I don't know if any of you guys remember, iron-on t-shirt transfers and stuff like that. I was a kid of the 80s, so that was my jam. But the dye sublimation process is kind of like that. We print a die, ink. It's not an ink, it's a die. But that is printed onto a transfer paper and then it's put onto a specifically coated material that we pressure and heat press. And when we do that, the die comes off of the paper, it's released and it's absorbed and permanently infused into the dye sublimation surface. So that dye goes into the medium. So with that, it can vary in terms of the output based on time it's applied to heat, the humidity of an area. There's about 800 different ways that you can get varying results. So the other thing with that too is you don't necessarily have a white point that is specific either. It can vary by batch. And so the results are a little bit less consistent. So if you want a really super consistent print in terms of repeatability and output, then a paper-based print is usually going to be the best medium. Yes, Mr. Siebert.
What is, when you use repeatable several times, I don't understand what that means.
Absolutely. So with that, it's a color consistency, we'll say. So yeah, Ashley's got it.
To make it as simple as possible on the paper-based prints, these G-clay prints, if you print something today and then print it again 10 years from now, those two prints should match. Versus with the other two methods, because the white point can be more variable since it's based on the white point of the material, which is less consistent than the white point of the paper and of the printing methods. When you get those two, you know, even a couple months or a year apart, if they came from different batches of the material, the images can be just slightly different, because if the white point on this material is slightly cooler and your new one is slightly warmer, it will just so slightly shift the whole print. It's slight, but it happens. But with the G-clay, it's basically going to be the exact same print year after year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there one more durable than the other, like tougher?
A lot of that is going to depend on how you finish it and how you protect it,
Oh,
to be honest. At least that's my,
Yeah, it depends on your definition of durability. If you want to put something outside in the weather, then something like the direct print is going to be the best option because there is no paper to absorb any water. So if you print the direct print straight to aluminum, there's nothing to absorb the water. It's already water resistant on its own, the ink itself, and so it will last a long time. But talking about durability, about something to have a commercial setting that's going to get handled a lot, that can be much more varied.
is there a limitation on print size?
Yes, generally it's based on the limitation of the material if you're mounting. Our printers can print 60 inches wide by just about any length if you're getting just a print. If we're mounting to a material, usually it's based on the material, and almost all of our material is 4 foot by 8 foot. So that would be the largest you can go.
in a single piece. We do
Yes.
have a couple options that can go larger than that. They're just considered non-standard or oversized materials. A lot of times. If you go to Home Depot, the biggest piece of wood you can get is 4 foot by 8 foot. Kind of the same where that's just kind of the standard. There are some places where we can get limited types of materials that are larger than that. So,
Jump to mounting play.
yeah. We're probably just gonna pass around a whole lot of samples if that's all right with you guys, just so that you can kind of see things. So with a G-clay print, one of the things that you need to do is protect it. Traditional framing is one way to do that. Not that it's an old school way, but it is very traditional. Some of the different options that we do have are to apply coatings over the top. That will add UV protection, it'll add water resistance, it'll add just general protection, you know, from fingerprints and all the different types of things. A raw print will become damaged with handling. So this is a good comparison, that piece and this piece, between direct print versus fine art. That first one is fine art and the second is direct print.
And just to give an example with that coating she was talking about, once it's coated, pretty much all of our fine art products, once they're coated, you can spray ammonia-free glass cleaner directly on the piece and wipe it down. Is that?
Yes. So in terms of what we can do and what some of the different print capacities are too, direct printing is really, yes. It's a great option. We have literally printed on just about anything, just when I think that the sky's the limit. We had someone bring in a hammered out car door that we were able to print on. We're able to print on just a whole slew of different things. We have product lines that use that direct printing method. So we've got some canvases, which is what this one is. If you're gonna buy canvases, please consider a quality option. I just speak from experience in that, like, ours, you can literally, I mean, you can step on, like, it's solid, right? Any other canvas, you are going to fall through. You're gonna have places where you can poke at it, and you're gonna see stretcher bars all around it. Canvas has really changed in a lot of ways to where there's canvas alternates that aren't quite the same as a traditional canvas print stretched over stretcher bars, but it's a great option. We have two different products. I'll grab our premium one. This is our direct print one.
Can you print on silk?
Yes and no. Textiles are usually best with dye sublimation. And with that dye sublimation, you have to have the right type of material. Usually a polyester-based material works best. Yeah.
So when you mount, or when you print on canvas, are you printing, or are you mounting it onto, because that's like it's on wood or something?
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
canvas stretched over wood.
So that is what this is. This is our kind of premium product. This takes a true canvas. So you'll see the weave is really consistent on a true canvas. You will have striations at times as well, where, I mean, canvas is a fabric, so it's woven, and so it uses thread. Our direct print product uses linen textured material, and so it looks like canvas, but it's not exactly the same as a canvas. We kind of consider it.
Then you're stretching it and then, you know, you print it flat and then you're stretching it over that frame or.
Yeah, it's kind of a proprietary product that we have come up with. It's almost like a pizza box, more or less, to where we take and mount a canvas, or with the opposing one, it's the kind of linen type material, and then we are able to direct print to that while it's flat, and then we kind of more or less fold it up like a pizza box. But it's a great product in that you won't see the folded over corners, and it's a much cleaner, nicer canvas.
Do you use different printers for the direct print versus the premium?
That's a fantastic question. Yes, we do. We have 3 different types of printers for each different type of printing process. So the inkjet is where we have large rolls of paper. It's the Giclée print style, to where we can print on a number of different types of papers. So here's kind of some different types of papers for the inkjet or Giclée style printing. We go anywhere from like a basic luster satin to to canvas, to a super gloss, or like a Fuji Flex crystal type paper. There's also some hand mule papers.
Those are all pretty much rag papers there, so those are more for like more fine art framing applications. Rag papers usually don't like to be mounted terribly well. They have a lot of issues when it comes to the edging process, not so much the mounting process if you're mounting on wood. But that's just kind of an example of some of the different rag papers and how they look versus a black and white or a color, because some papers are good for one and not as good for the other. Usually a gloss paper is better for black and white than a matte paper would be, for instance.
Yeah.
How do you know what material? Because I printed my photographs on metal, on paper, on canvas, and I never really quite know which one works best for what situation.
Absolutely. So, well, go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of the $1 million question when it comes to pictures. I get asked
The
it.
older type thing.
Yeah, I get asked it 1 million times a day of what will this look good on? And it's obviously dependent image to image. and kind of what you're trying to bring through. Obviously, like this one that you guys saw passed around where you can see the metal through it, probably not good for most images. You're gonna want something with a pure white point because that's how it's going to be how you shot it. But there are some where this is going to be perfect. And it's really going to give you the artistic look that you're looking for. So it's really going to be dependent. If you ever have that kind of question, you're more than welcome to contact us, contact me specifically. I have business cards back there for anyone who wants to grab one. And you're like, what will this look good on? And I'll give you some options and some reasons why I think it looks good on it.
Some of that too can also be environmental as well.
Yeah,
In terms of where it's going to be placed, if you're going to put
the
something.
lighting that it's gonna be exposed to.
Absolutely, absolutely. You nailed that. So
Those are the things I've struggled with.
yes, so some of the really high sheen products might not be great in a area that's really well lit with a lot of direct sunlight, because then you're gonna get a lot of glare. And truly, the right lighting does make a world of difference. And it's a little bit harder because a lot of people just, want a piece to put over their couch, things like that. But if you can get the right lighting on a piece, it really will make a world of difference. For sure. Yeah.
The thing I was just pointing out is that if you guys mirror the edges if you want, right? Or you can do something else.
Absolutely. We're pretty much the Burger King of the art world. However you want it, we'll make it your way kind of thing. To where, yes, you can have mirrored edges, you can have solid color edges. I've seen some of my favorite are actually ones where I've seen people put quotes or different information that relate to the image as well. We can also customize the back side. If you look at some of them, there's a little kind of border. We can put business logos, contact information. I mean, the piece is the best business card, right? And a lot of times people can't read a signature. And so to have contact information and more or less a place where people can find your information 5 years down the road when they take the piece back off the wall, that might be another sale for you. So we definitely encourage and recommend you consider that as well, just as an option. But yes, absolutely. Customization is something that we've really kind of held true to over the years. There's a lot of big box print companies. We aren't one of them. Every single piece that we get in, we treat as a custom piece. So most places you can get your 20 by 30, 24-36, you can get your standard aspect ratio sizes. But we don't operate that way. We feel as if the image should drive the size, not the size drive your crop of an image. So that's, yeah.
How does one submit a file?
Certainly. So because we're a little bit of a smaller establishment, there's a plethora of ways you can do it. Generally, most people will send it through something like Google Drive, Dropbox, WeTransfer. There's a ton of different services, and we can set you up with something that will allow you to upload your files that way. Everything's done a little bit more casually, so you can just call it in, you can stop by, you can shoot us an email. It doesn't have to be super formal. It's not all through the website like a lot of other places, but if you've ordered with us before, we keep any image you've sent us on file unless you tell us not to. So if you order something once and you call us again 5 years down the line and hey, Kate, can I get that palm tree image again at the same size that we did it then? Yep, that's all you have to say and we can order it for you.
Can you take a negative?
That's one that we don't do, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the kind of traditional print methodology is not where we started out, and so it's just not something that we have brought on. Just because it's not our area of expertise, we kind of stick to what we know. But we can recommend some great other print shops who can help with negatives. Unfortunately, that's not.
There's services that will scan your negative for you.
Yes, yep.
And then you can print it.
Yes, there's actually little machines that you can buy from home if you happen to have a lot of negatives. You can get a home machine. They aren't as expensive as you would think that they are. To where I think we looked at one at one point. Yes.
Are you familiar with ProPrints and Longhorn, formerly Circle Graphics?
Yes.
How does your quality or your processes differ from theirs? Are you familiar?
Absolutely. So a couple different ways. I don't know if that's one that you want to take or I can take.
What Circle Graphics does nowadays. I know what they used to do.
That's
Circle
That's
Graphics.
fair. So we do have, I wouldn't say, a broad expertise in what they do. From what I understand of the company setup, they definitely run high volume and they take a high volume approach. It's a lot of canvases that are, they're semi-rigid, kind of like ours. And they have a sprayed on coating on them. With that, one of the things that I've gotten feedback from is that there's a lot of inconsistencies of the thickness of the spray on finishes. And then their corners are different where they're folded over a bit more. So there's some variations. I know from a company and a corporate level, they run largely on temp workers and temp hiring. And so it's not quite the same level of consistency for interaction. Tim, you look ready.
Tim has a comment. Can I answer that? Huge difference.
Okay.
I used to use them because they have very inexpensive canvas prints.
Yes, I've
They're
used them
certainly
too.
not canvas. And I sold some to my former coworkers at the Daily Camera, and I know one woman came back and it was all unfolded because the afternoon sun would come in her window and heated it up, and it just kind of. And then I was fortunate enough to get, the city bought 26 of my images for the new Health and Human Services building. I don't know how many, 8 years ago or something like that. And I told Mindy that, yeah, I'm gonna have Circle Graphics, and she said, I think we can help you out there. And I mean, for not much, a nominal difference in price.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and if you're running kind of volume and you are consistent in ordering, we're pretty quick to say, hey, you're easy to work with. We'd love to, put you at a commercial level and get you additional discounts as well, just because, we want to support artists in the area, and especially on those commercial projects where, unfortunately, the starving artist stereotype didn't come from nowhere. So our goal is to help break that. We do definitely have a higher quality product. A lot of times with that does come a little bit more of an investment in it, but at the same time, we build stuff to last. In the 2 decades that we've been around, we have seen very, very, very minimal pieces come back with any sort of issue. And we believe in being honest and fair. If it's something that we didn't build correct, or if it was a flaw that we realized later on in the design process, because we've created all of these products largely from scratch. We didn't copy somewhere else. We didn't get the information to build them in any way from anywhere else. So we do understand that, hey, with some of our products, we needed some testing to refine some different things. And so we're really good to say, you know what, that was on us, and replace things should that be the case. So one of the things though that I would tell you though too is with printing, one of the things that I would encourage you guys the most to do is consider test proofs. Because you never know exactly what the output's going to be. We'd rather have a test proof done so that you have confidence in what the output's going to look like, and from there be confident in what the end product is that you get. We'd hate for you to look at a screen and say, oh, well, I like it just like this, and then have your print come out completely different, because that is common. I know a lot of the questions that you guys had were about, hey, how do I get my screen to match the output and everything? So we'll address a lot of that. Because that is really important, but I can't stress enough, consider doing test proofs of the type of output that you're doing, order something small, or we do test proofs too, just so that we can get that.
Have you done that? Can you expand on that a little bit? What do you do with the test proof process? What do you do?
Absolutely. I can take that.
So a test proof can be a number of different things. If you're printing on either a sublimated or a direct print product, because the final piece is going to be dependent on the substrate, the test proof will be an almost finished piece effectively. It'll be something like one of these where it's missing the backing, but you have to get it pretty much to this point to have an idea of how it's going to look. Because if you've ever
Smaller version or?
Yes, generally a
You
much
don't
smaller
want,
version.
you want a 3x4, then you're right.
Yes, and for anything that requires generally a substrate, we have just a $15 test proof fee, just to keep it a little more economical. Usually that's about an 8x12, somewhere in that range. And your options, most people, it depends on what you're trying to get from your test proof. Are you trying to see if it will look sharp at the size you want to print? Or are you trying to see if the colors are what you expect from your monitor? So if you're trying to see if the colors are what you expect, you do a full size print shrunk down. But if you're trying to see, you know, if I want to blow this image up to 40x60, is it going to hold up? We'll make it 40x60 and we'll just take like an 8x10 section and print that. And then you can look at it, you know, up close for real and see, you know, do I actually think this will hold up to the size? But if you're ever doing anything that's paper mounted, all you have to do is print on the paper and we just charge for the cost of the paper for those. So you can see what it'll look like.
But definitely worth the investment, to do that, because, you know, say on our end, we don't have the buffer to print off 8 different prints for you to make sure that you like it. If we're going with big prints, right? And we hate for you to have to absorb the cost, but there's obvious costs associated with that. So to build the confidence, say, hey, this is what it's going to look like, by doing just a small test is something I highly, highly recommend. At some point, you will kind of start to get a confidence in what it looks like on your monitor and how the output will look. But you do need to understand how it looks on the screen is not necessarily how it's going to come out when it's printed.
Can I ask for a question regarding that?
Yeah.
Really appreciate you two being here so I can ask questions like this. The art of the photograph itself is a step in itself.
Mhm.
When you put it on your computer, excuse me, and edit it, there's a bit of art and finesse to that. Then when you save it and put it on a drive to hand to you all, and you all take it, the picture from my computer to what I thought was from my camera to the computer to the printing device takes some steps. And I was wondering, somewhere in this presentation today, could you give me the keystrokes for that? So I go into print and there's more settings, I go into all these little settings, hoping that the picture will match the print. Do you?
I'm gonna let you. Yeah, absolutely. So actually the pro.
It's actually like a half dozen of these things. You have to push this button and make that button do that.
Yeah, and it's gonna be different depending on what software you're using. I assume most of you are using Lightroom or something probably very similar to that. It's great software. And so there's going to be those couple of steps that you discussed. There's going to be editing it in Lightroom and then exporting it to something outside of a raw format, because you don't ever want to give a printer the raw format. Almost always the raw file you've seen is on your computer is usually separate from actually the edits. When you start making edits, it creates that second file. And those aren't always consistent. It's a pain to send 2 files to try and make sure you get the correct one. So you want to export, but then it's, what the heck do I export it at? So usually it depends on what ICC profile. You guys have probably heard of ProPhoto, Adobe 1998, sRGB. I can tell you right now, don't use sRGB. It's just not good for photography work. It's great for web work, but if you want to print something, keep it in either Adobe RGB or ProPhoto. So when you're exporting, try to maintain whatever you took it in. You can look at your camera settings, but it should show it in Lightroom. Generally, you don't need to do any resizing on your end if you're not also going to do the output sharpening. And so I would hold off on that because you can always do the sharpening last. So just try and export it. Usually a TIFF is the best format to export in. A JPEG can be okay, but I say can be for a reason. There's a lot of little settings in there, and if you set something wrong, you can really mess with your image. A TIFF, it's pretty hard to mess up your image saving it as a TIFF. So you'll save it as a TIFF, and then you can give it to us. Once it's a TIFF, it's pretty close to its final stage, but there still are steps of getting it ready for print. The way that we handle that is we trust that you as a photographer have edited the image how you want it to be. There's a lot of other places where you will take it, especially online ones, and I can basically guarantee that they're doing a couple edits on their end. They're used to getting bulk stuff. They're used to getting people who just send in a picture of their dog that they took on their cell phone, and the company automatically just goes in and boosts contrast and brightness and saturation to try and make it look good for the average Joe. But you've spent hours in Lightroom really whittling it down to exactly what you want. You don't want anyone messing with your stuff. So we're not gonna touch it unless you ask us to. The only thing we're basically going to handle is sizing it for the print step. So that way, once we print it, it is the size that you are looking for. And that's something that I've done for years. And so I have a really good eye about what works well and what doesn't. If you want to handle that, you're more than welcome to. I can kind of help walk you through that. That can be its own fun, complex process. But otherwise we can handle all of that side of things. In terms of exporting, usually you just want to keep an eye on, try not to be doing any resizing on it. Leave it at usually 300 DPI for profile, either Adobe RGB 1998 or ProPhoto. And for the file type is generally TIFF is best.
We believe it at 300, then what about when you want to make it a bigger photo? So when you want to take it to 600 DPI?
So DPI is kind of a trick because it's all just math that doesn't, all DPI is telling the computer is if you have an image that's 1,000 by 1,000 and you tell the computer that it's 10 DPI, then then the computer thinks it's 100 inches by 100 inches. If you tell it that it's 100 DPI, it thinks it's 10 inches by 10 inches. It's still 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. Nothing in the image has changed. So if you set it to 300 DPI and don't set a size, it's not going to mess with anything or affect anything.
Okay, good to know.
They'll just size pixels, vertical and horizontal for you, right?
Correct. Yes, I'll take however many pixels it is and divide it by 300, and that'll be the size of the image.
When you resize, is there any sharpening added to that or not?
It's something we can talk to you about when it comes time to do that. It'll really depend on the size you're looking to go. If you're trying to do a really big piece of 4872 or something. Everything we do, every single piece that comes through that we print goes through me and I look at it. And if I look at a piece and I think something either looks off, there's clearly colors that don't seem right, I don't think this exported well, I will let you know. If I think this looks too soft for this size, I think we should look into trying to find either some kind of upscaling method or sharpening to work on. We can do that, but we don't charge for any of those kinds of services, just to help you make sure your piece is the best piece that it can be getting to the print step. So if you say, hey, I'm looking to do, at this size, it's 20 by 30, can you make sure it looks sharp? I can add a little bit of unsharp mask or something if it needs it.
Oh, yeah. I think it's great. Just while we're on the topic of all of the graphics, we'd love to kind of just make sure that we cover all the questions that you guys had submitted to Phil as well.
Yeah. I'll hit a couple other points. So one of the biggest things you'll see that I'm sure if any of you printed your pieces yet, that you've already seen in the difference from screen to print is brightness. You look at it on your screen and you get a print and the print looks dark. The classic story, it happens pretty much every time. And there's a couple different reasons for this. Most often, it's just a non-calibrated monitor, which I'll get into calibration and that whole thing here in a second. But a lot of it is that a computer screen is emissive light, it's emitting light, whereas a print is reflective light. So it's dependent on where you have it. So you could have a print and you get it and you think, God, I printed this and this looks really dark. And if you take it outside on a bright sunny day, it'll probably look really close to the screen. But you're never going to display a print in that much light. And so usually you want to boost the print a little bit, or the image file a little bit for print. It's dependent on each image. A good rule of thumb, if you're working in Photoshop, it's 10 to 20 points of brightness. If you're in Lightroom, it's like usually up to like around a quarter stop max. It's not much, but it's enough that you're just boosting up brightness a little, that if you have it at the perfect brightness and add that little bit extra, when you get the print and you have it in an area that's just a little darker, it'll look like you pretty much expect it to. Yes.
Do you boost brightness by way of exposure or like curves or light slider? Is there a reference between the three?
It can be dependent on the image naturally. Usually just an overall either brightness or exposure will do just fine. So I kind of gave those options. Usually brightness is 10 to 20 points, exposure is, 0.1 to like 0.25 stop or so. You can do curves, you can do it in levels, but when you do that, you're getting a lot more specific. So if you do that, that's fine, as long as you know what you're doing and what you're expecting to do. Yeah. And then to hit on the calibration. So the biggest thing to get your computer screen to look like the print is getting it calibrated. Fortunately, it's one of the most painful steps and cost-wise. Usually a calibration tool is $300 to $500. Looks like a little puck, and you attach it to your screen. It runs a whole program that'll run a bunch of colors. And like the eye on the puck will read those colors, see how they're different than it expects the colors to be, and it builds a specific color profile for your screen. They're great. You can then use color profiles that we can provide for our papers to do soft proofing on your screen to get a better idea of how it's going to print. But most people don't do that. And a lot of screens are going to be close, but not close enough. But usually you can get a pretty good gauge. Most people I've seen, even if they don't calibrate their screen after 3 or 4 test prints, have a pretty good idea of how their screen relates to the print and can start editing appropriately from there, just kind of keeping in mind those differences.
So if you use the same monitor, do you just calibrate once, or do you have to do it periodically?
Good question. You have to do it periodically. I've heard a lot of different numbers thrown out in terms of 3 months, 6 months, a year. I like to try to stick in the 6 month to a year category, but I've never seen that much change even after a year or two. But it also depends how much you use your monitor and how much it's getting, worn out by that kind of thing. The only other thing that affects it is ambient lighting. So when you profile a screen, you're profiling it, including the lighting in the room. That affects the light that you're seeing out of the screen. So if you profile your monitor in your house, and you go outside to edit your images, you've now changed what the lighting looks like, and you're not actually seeing a true profile screen.
Can you rent those devices?
I couldn't even talking about that. That is something that we may offer in the future. I don't know if there might be an online place that might offer it. We haven't seen or heard of that.
Yeah.
And like Ashley said, it's a bit of an investment. It's $300-400, $1,000 for
Something you use 3 or 4 times max.
yeah, usually yes.
Your photo club might even lend you one.
Hey, there you go. If he's got one, you may want to.
There are settings when you do that. And I just always take whatever they say should be the right settings, and I just don't know if those are correct, and I don't remember exactly what they are, but.
Yeah, calibrations.
Spider or something like that, but I.
Yeah, the common brands are Spider, spelled with a Y, Color Monkey, and i1. We've used i1, but I know people have used Spider and Color Monkey. They all seem to be pretty similar. Yeah, usually they'll give you some options, but it'll kind of depend what you're doing. Usually there's just like a color calibration mode, and it's kind of just black magic, they phrase it as, because it's like, well, what is it calibrating to? And it's like, well, it's calibrated. And so there's no set thing that it's calibrating to. It's just saying, theoretically, if we say that this is putting out 100% red, the monitor should be putting out 100% red.
So I've always wondered, is it worth having? It's like, they're not that expensive, but.
It depends how much you're printing, whether or not you think it's worth having. I mean, like I said, they're usually $300 to $500, but I mean, sometimes you can figure out what you need to know from a $4 test proof. So depends how much it's really going to pay off for you.
Yeah. And I can't stress test proofs enough to truly make sure that you're going to get the output that you want and that you expect. It is a little bit of an investment, but trust me, you'd rather do a small piece investment than have to pay for a large piece and not like it.
And I can attest to that because one of the pictures that I have, I wanted the tapestry to be brighter and it came out really dark. And everybody kind of liked it, but I didn't. So, but I had the proof. And then once I realized I didn't like it on the proof, they were able to fix it. So it'd be, or I should say, Gary fixed it. So it'd be a lot brighter. And now I love the picture. So, yeah, for $15, then you still have that. You can stick it up here and you can sell it to somebody when you don't want.
It's still beautiful piece, right? It's what an art proof is, I mean.
It's got better light over here.
Yeah. And lighting truly does make all the difference in the world. We have a photographer who's professional, has gallery, and he had us run some test proofs of some new images that he got, and he got them. He's like, I just don't like these. He's like, they're dull, they don't look right. And I said, you know what? Did you happen to take those outside? What kind of lighting were you looking at those in? And he is like, oh my goodness, I feel so silly because I know better. And he took them outside. He's like, these are great. They're perfect. So lighting really can affect things, and but taking that little step of doing a test proof to make sure that it does look good, and with that too, that it looks good in the space. Because if he was to take those same prints and we were to have printed them large and he put them in that space, they wouldn't have looked good. But just taking them, a room or two over or outside somewhere that had better light, it was perfect. So sometimes that can also be environmental and related to the ambient light too.
Substrates?
Sure.
Maybe?
Yeah, we can do that. One of the other things that we kind of started talking about a little bit too, was direct printing. With direct printing, it has very expansive opportunities. We do wayfinding signage, outdoor signage. One of the Canvas products, all of our products have a direct print option. But what I personally love is when our clients go and do something that's just creative and fun. You can grab the acrylic piece. Sure. So this is a direct print that is just done on plywood, just a kind of a finished plywood piece. Really a unique look, something that's a little bit more artistic, but something that's kind of fun, something that's different. We've had a lot of requests and different things for like a stained glass window type appearance. With direct printing, you can do, this is pretty much a CMYK, which would be color only. We can do CMYK with white, a lot of different options in terms of what we can create. Some of my favorite pieces, and unfortunately we didn't have any that were finished that were customer related. I was gonna snag the one that was on there too. All right. Oh, will you? Yes. Okay. So, too many pieces that we brought, I guess.
Bring them all.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, with printing, it's better to see the things, right? So with our options, there's a lot of different ways where we can create different pieces, right? So this is one that kind of takes advantage of some of the different options. If you get into the acrylic, which is this front piece, this has a direct print on the front and on the back side. With that, you're able to create some layered and dimensional artwork. This is, yeah, got standoffs, and then it has a metal kind of print on the back side. So we're able to really create a lot of unique pieces, just given the expanse of types of printing that we have in-house. We also do, grab the elephant piece. We brought that, right? Oh, below. Okay, yeah. One of the other things that we have kind of done with the direct printing is that we can layer ink and we can create dimensional textured artwork. It's something that we bought our direct printer 11 years ago or so, and under the premise that we thought that we could do this, and ended up being able to create layered and textured artwork. We actually ended up teaching it back to Canon to show them how to use it, which was kind of cool. But it's also allowed us to do things like Braille signage and things like that. But the dimensional artwork is really unique, especially given, limited visual capacities for some people. It makes it kind of interactive and a very tactile type of artwork. So it's really something that's very unique. We've done many pieces with it, but it's just something that's kind of cool. So you'll have to check that out as well. It's one of those things we love, doing artwork that pushes the boundaries of how you can create something, right? You guys go out and capture beautiful images and you curate, such an amazing look. We take it as our job to bring what you have created and what your vision is, to bring it into reality, bring it into something that you can put onto a wall, that you can display that truly captures that vision. So I definitely challenge you guys to not just stick to the basics, and push the envelope as to what artwork can look like, what it can be, and how you can present it. So.
You didn't bring an LED backlight.
No, we didn't. We didn't have to bring, oh, I was gonna say a generator, but not here. We do, so we also have, as Bill said, and I think, did you get one at one point, or?
No, I'm an idiot, it's printed on two sides.
Oh, yes, I remember. Not any, I thought it was great. But yeah, we do also have backlit options, which, the kind of see-through plexi kind of shows a little bit too. But we have almost like an LED screen that you can, put a piece of artwork in and backlight. It is like a fly trap. I mean, it has the attraction that people are just drawn to. They're really captivating. We've done some really neat pieces using like lightning photography or starlight, yeah. With that type of presentation, and it's stunning. We've got a couple in the showroom, which we gladly welcome you guys all to come at some point. Maybe, Bill, we work on doing a how it's made kind of walk through and tour if you guys want.
A field trip.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'd happily host you guys to kind of come and see how things are
I'm
done.
sorry, I missed the language for that. You said, what was the one that did the night sky as well?
A backlit.
Back.
Yeah, backlit acrylic.
And just to be a little more in depth on that, the way that it's different than just like on your screen, or if you have, one of those picture frames that can change through images, is that the same method that we use to put texture to a piece, that's thick enough that it can block light. So in darker areas of the picture, we can put more of that. And so in like a night sky image, you're not going to have this black that looks washed out. The black will be black, and only areas that you want to be lit will be lit. You get a great contrast out of it.
Wow, is there any, yeah.
It's your showroom, at certain hours or appointment, or how's it done?
If we were to take on kind of a group, we'd maybe ask for an appointment, but our team is available pretty much 9 to 4 most days. We've got a little bit more limited Friday hours, but about 9 to 4, you can find us and come stop on in at any point in time. So
How many
Where are
people
you at?
work at DuraPlaq?
so that's another thing. We started here in Colorado. We also have a Tennessee facility as well. So between the two, I don't know, I should know, we probably have around 20 staff. And so we are a little bit on a smaller scale side, but we've largely prioritized customs and good customer care over, mass size and everything. But we serve a wide variety of clients, just given that we have a wide variety of product options. But photographers and interior designers, art consultants are our primary clientele and who we understand and serve best, I think. So.
I might add that your shop is really not that far away, so if you
Oh,
have
no.
a picture that
Where
you
is it?
feel very important to get it printed and printed right, go up to the shop and take your picture with it, and then you can talk to it. It's much easier to do that than to try and do it phone or
Yeah,
through emails.
yeah, absolutely.
It's about
So-
a half hour.
Yeah, we're near the American Furniture Warehouse on I-25 as a general.
We are just off of I-25, like
Yeah.
a couple blocks. Basically.
Yeah,
By Long Long or?
yeah,
Find the big flag.
yeah, by the giant American flag.
Camping World.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I don't know how we're doing on time. We obviously want to make sure that we address questions, but we.
That's about all our time, unless
Okay.
there's any more burning questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for allowing us to come in and kind of educate.
One announcement I forgot, Mark Adler brought this up. Louisville Art Guild is doing their annual exhibit. It's a juried photo show. And I'll send an email